What's going on, everyone? Andrew Gombis here. Hope everyone's having a great holiday season, getting ready for Christmas over the next couple of days, ready to do some overeating. Obviously, have a little break in UFC, so I put out a poll on Twitter. Wanted to bring you guys a little bit of maybe educational content, if you want to call it that, regarding MMA betting over the next couple of weeks. Got some great feedback on my poll. Figured first, I was going to put this all in the one video, just kind of call it MMA Betting 101, talk about my process, my strategy. But I figured instead it might be a better idea to back up a little bit and kind of start with a little bit about what is MMA betting, kind of what some of the different props mean and what over-unders signify, and just kind of what to look for when betting. And then as the days move on, I'll go into a little bit more about my specific process, best books to use, recommendations, live betting strategies, all that stuff. So expect some of that in the coming days. But for now, I'm just going to start with a little bit of MMA betting and betting in general, 101. So might be a little bit redundant, but hopefully this is reaching some people who might have bet other sports or not really been into betting at all, but are kind of just starting to get into MMA betting. So obviously you get a fight. You have two fighters. The money line is just who wins the fight. So we'll use Francis Ngannou versus Cyril Gane coming up on January 22nd as an example. There's probably about 10 or 20 books that I use. I'm always trying to get the best line possible, obviously over a long period of time. That makes a difference. The difference between plus 110 and plus 130, for example, is a big difference. Or I'll even stick with this Gane versus Ngannou example. So FanDuel, if you have FanDuel, it has Francis Ngannou as a minus 120 favorite. And what that means is you need to risk $120 on Francis Ngannou to win $100. And if you're betting on Cyril Gane on FanDuel, he's plus 102. So if you risk $100, you'll get $102 in profit if he wins. And something I wanted to touch on is implied odds. So what does minus 120 mean? It means you have to bet $120 to win 100, but it also signifies an implied percentage that he's going to win the fight. So minus 120 is equal to 54.5%. So if you think that Francis Ngannou has, say, a 60% chance to win this fight, 60 out of 100, you're getting an implied 5.5% in value if you bet minus 120 on his money line. And on the other side, Cyril Gane plus 102, type that into my calculator, 49.5%. So if you say, oh, no way, I think Cyril Gane wins this fight at least 55%, 60% of the time, there's what's called value on that line. And so you're going to want to bet Cyril Gane in that instance. But say Francis Ngannou is minus 120, and you're like, yeah, I think Francis is going to win. I'm picking him to win, but I think 55% is about right. You're not going to bet that because there's no value on the line. You want to get an edge, so to speak, on the books, because in MMA betting and betting in anything, you're not necessarily looking to pick a winner. You're looking to bet a number, right? So, and what I was alluding to with the different books. So Francis Ngannou's minus 120 on FanDuel, but he's minus 105 on DraftKings. So minus 120, I said, implies 54.5%. Minus 105 is 51.2%. So that's almost a 3% difference in odds, which might not seem like a ton off the jump, but over a long period of time, that really, really adds up. So in MMA betting, money line, who's going to win the fight? Implied odds, it's very important to note. You're always looking to get value on the line. You're not necessarily looking to pick a winner. And maybe I'm using a pick'em fight or close to it as an example. Just for reference point, again, I know this is a 101 video. Pick'em is where it's like pretty even on both sides. Like a dead even pick'em would be minus 110, minus 110. The implied odds for that are 52.4. If I were to use another example of a fight coming up in the new year, let's go with I'm trying to find one where the odds are wide. Let's go with Rodolfo Vieira versus Wellington Turman. Rodolfo Vieira is a minus 270 favorite, so that implies that there's a 73% chance he wins that fight, right? So, again, this is all hypothetical. I'm not talking about the fight itself. I'm more or less just using it as an example. So, Rodolfo Vieira, minus 270. That implies that there's a 73% chance he's going to win the fight. I would not bet that number because I think Rodolfo Vieira is going to win the fight. I would bet Rodolfo Vieira if I think there's an 80% chance or an 85% chance he's going to win that fight, because that means I'm getting value on that number. And then, so you could bet money lines in MMA, and that's a little bit about implied odds. Then there's over-unders as well. So again, let's stick with that Ngannou versus Gane line. Over 2.5 rounds, plus 110. Under 2.5 rounds, minus 130. So what that means is the benchmark is halfway through the third round. So when it hits 2 minutes and 30 seconds into that third round is when is what differentiates the over-under. So let's say Francis Ngannou knocks Cyril Gane out late in the second round. That means the under would hit. So if you bet $130 on the under, you would win $100 at minus 130. If Cyril Gane knocks out Francis Ngannou with 30 seconds left in round number 3, then the over would hit, and you would win $100 if you bet 100 on the over 2.5 rounds, because that happened after that 2.5 minute mark. And then you could go into the little bit more specific props that you could bet with MMA. So again, I'm just going to keep sticking with the Gane versus Ngannou example. You could bet Gane wins by TKO or KO, or you could bet Ngannou wins by TKO or KO. So that means any kind of knockout, whether it be a technical knockout or a stone cold KO, you're cashing that prop. Same thing with submission. If your opponent taps out, if you choke them, if you armbar them, something of that sort, that would hit the submission prop. And then you could combine those two and bet something that's called inside the distance. So you could bet Francis Ngannou wins inside the distance, and that would cover if he gets a KO, if he gets a submission, if Gane gets DQ'd and Ngannou wins by disqualification, that's included in that as well. You could bet a fight to not go the distance, which means in this case it's a 5-round fight. You could bet that fight does not go all 5 rounds. You could bet that it goes the distance, that it does go all 5 rounds. So yeah, and some sites you could bet the draw too, that it's a draw. The thing about props, it's the book puts a little bit of a bigger hold percentage on that, so you need to have a bigger edge to win there. Some people like to bet props because they think they could get a better edge, but it really depends on the bettor. I've done a mix in my years. I think I'm focusing on more money lines and totals for now. And yeah, so I think I'm going to wrap it up here. I'm going to do my next video is probably going to be more about a little bit what I look for when betting fights, but I wanted to give you a little bit of background in regard to what MMA betting is. MMA Betting 101, we'll call it. So just to reiterate, you have your money lines, who's going to win the fight, your totals over under 2.5, under over 1.5 rounds. That's 2.5 minutes into that round. You have inside distance, which covers a KO, a TKO, a sub, a disqualification. You have your individual specific props where you could bet someone to win by KO, and you could also, some books have each round, so you could bet Francis Ngannou wins in round 1, and that means he has to win in the first round. So that's pretty much it. And then on that front, and then implied odds like we talked about, there's a site I use called aceodds.com. Use their betting calculator. You could type in minus 270 into that, and it'll spit back out that it's a 73% implied probability. So again, not looking to necessarily pick the winner every time. You're looking to get an edge on the number the book is giving. So hope this helps. Hope everyone has a Merry Christmas, and looking forward to see you in the next video.